You might think science is all about quiet hours pipetting a nap. But to beat a deadly virus like HIV, we might need serious martial arts skills. Get ready for CD8 T cells. HIV is one of the couple of viruses that don't just infect humans, but actually insert their viral code into the human DNA. Once infected, a person cannot get rid of HIV again. And that poses a huge challenge to our immune system. So after around 8 to 10 years of infection, everything is kind of worn down and doesn't function properly anymore. Our fighter T cells, the CD8 T cells, are exhausted at this point. And overall, there's such few T cells left that this condition is a deadly disease called AIDS. Luckily, since the late 1990s, there has been very effective antiretroviral medication. And this has turned HIV infection from a death sentence into a manageable chronic condition. However, today, we are sitting here and 40 million people are living with the same stalemate. We're in the same situation, dependent on daily medication. So is there a way to simply be healthy without therapy, achieve an HIV cure? Well, here's our starting point. Actually, 1 in 200 people living with HIV, so around 0.5%, naturally control the infection. They don't need therapy despite carrying HIV inside their own DNA. So what makes them special? For this, we need a tiny crash course on human genetics. So when you think about DNA, you likely think about genes. But genes are actually just kind of like the cities. So yes, they are where all the activity and action takes place, but they're just the city that's located in the far more abundant heterochromatin forest, the kind of bundled up DNA that's more silent and less active. The problem with HIV is that in most people, HIV is exactly inserted into those cities, into the genes. Not so in elite controllers. So the rare people who control HIV tend to carry HIV in the heterochromatin. And the second thing that's special about elite controllers are, you guessed it, they're fighter T cells. The elite controller CD8 T cells are outstanding at forming these clone armies and killing infected cells. And in fact, they simply don't ever get tired. So elite controllers have two superpowers, HIV outside the city and amazing fighter T cells. But what causes what? Answering that is the goal of my PhD. And is it that the fighters push HIV into the forest? Or are elite controllers simply those people where HIV inserted itself in the forest, remained more quiet, and that way the fighter T cells never got burned out? So to answer this question, I generate these elite controller mouse avatars. The way this works is that we inject mice with HIV-susceptible cells from a given human elite controller, and they don't receive any fighter T cells though. While the other group of mice receives the same cells plus the elite controller CD8 T cells from the same human donor. So we have a direct side-by-side comparison. We infect with HIV sequence, and what we observe is really exciting. HIV still lands in the cities, in the genes. So there doesn't appear to be anything special about the cells or about the DNA. They're just as susceptible. But wait for it, with elite controller CD8 T cells, most HIV is eradicated, and what's left is more often detected in the heterochromatin in the forest. So this is really exciting. For the first time, we're showing that HIV is located in different spots depending on how good the CD8 T cell response is. So without fighters, lots of HIV, very active HIV, making HIV RNA and protein. With elite fighter CD8 T cells, less HIV and less active HIV. So CD8 T cells can kick HIV out of the city and deep into the heterochromatin forest. This gives us hope because it shows that we might not need to eradicate all HIV. But it seems more manageable to reduce HIV and silence what's left. And no more antiretroviral therapy and shield is needed. And even beyond the scope of HIV, this can teach us that it's important to study our own fighter T cells, because we're already beginning to harness CD8 T cell therapies, for example, to fight cancer. And I believe it's about time to design an elite fighter training plan to also boost all of our CD8 T cells to beat chronic viral infections like HIV. We all have fighter T cells, and the best fights are yet to come. We are ready. Thank you very much.